Well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Toke. I'm CEO of Compaction Technologies based in Eagan, Minnesota. And I'm really thrilled to be here today talking to you folks about sustainability and what it means to your customers to be sustainable. I work for a company, I've been at it for about 11 years now. There's 12 of us all together, and to a man, each one of them is really dedicated to what we're doing. What we're trying to do is improve sustainability for fast food and quick serve and coffee house operators across the country, trying to improve the work life for the employees in those places and also improve the guest experience in those places. And it's a really good group of folks. Now, they're not volunteers, we pay them, we give them benefits, but they come to work because they like what we're doing. And it's really been a lot of fun. So I'm here as a mouthpiece for those 12 people that work at this extremely, extremely hard. A little bit about my background. I grew up in Western Oregon, between Portland, Oregon and the coast, kind of out in the foothills. And everybody that I knew growing up, everybody was an expert in sustainability. They all practiced zero waste. So they didn't do it just to be altruistic, they did it because we didn't have garbage trucks. Nobody came to your driveway and picked up your garbage at the end of your driveway every week. So you had to make do. So just about everybody composted, separated their compost, and they either fed it to livestock or they composted it in their garden. Everybody separated their newspapers and bundled them up and held them for a paper drive. Everybody separated their glass and put it in green glass, brown glass, clear glass. And everybody recycled and sent back cans and bottles because Oregon had a bottle bill. So everybody was practicing sustainability. So when I went off to college, I moved into a house where they didn't have a place to put recycling or a place to put compost. And I spent the first couple of weeks of school looking around wondering, where am I supposed to put the banana peels and where am I supposed to put the newspapers? Because nobody practiced that. Now that's a real backward situation, because if you look today at young people that go off to college, at least the ones that I know, they come home and what do? They bitch at their parents because they're not separating everything. They're throwing everything away and they're saying, hey, at school we separate this stuff. We put the recycle here, we put the landfill here. And it's just a sign of the times that the young people in this country really are into sustainability. Well, those, my friends, those are your customers. And if you don't believe me, there's a recent McKinsey study that came out that talked about how 8 out of 10 millennials and Gen Zers all consider sustainability when making a brand selection. 8 out of 10. So that means your customers really, really care about sustainability. So when I say sustainability, what do I mean? Well, there's a few examples. What does it mean to be sustainable to your customers? Well, one could be doing sustainable sourcing. That's very common. That's sourcing from local providers, sustainable sourcing. Another one would be to be LEED green building. That's showing that you're using recyclable materials. And that's a placard that you earn and put on the side of your dining room. Another one would be to use LED light bulbs. They're energy saving, and it's a good way to save energy and a good way to show you're sustainable. Another one that's very common, and we see this all the time in my world, where people put a receptacle for recycle next to their waste receptacles, or they put a receptacle for compost next to their waste receptacles. And that's a very common way to do. But unfortunately, in this situation, a lot of the time, a lot of these waste streams end up in the same location. They all end up in the trash because not everybody is very good at accurately separating wastes. So when people do less than a perfect job of putting the organics in the organics or the recycle in the recycle, you violate a contamination level, and that ends up going into the landfill. Now, this doesn't happen every time, but this happens, and it happens a lot more than any of us care to think about. So, is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it's one way to be sustainable. Well, what if I was to tell you that there's a way most brands could say, we saved 11 million trash bags, which was 225 tons of plastic. How would that be for sustainable? Be pretty good, right? People get that. Well, there's a way to do that. There's proven technology that does it. And why is this really resonating? Because of plastic bags. Plastic bags are an issue. The technology I'm talking about can reduce plastic bag use by 90%. Now, why is that such a big deal? Well, it's a big deal because plastic bags are horrible for the environment, and most people know that. They blow all over the place, they never degrade, and they become a real problem. And the truth of the matter is, just about everybody hates plastic bags. They're demonized. They're the root of all evil. They're terrible. Well, believe me when I say they aren't very good for the environment. And really the fundamental reason is because plastic bags, trash bags in particular, are made out of plastic. Plastic was really created to create a barrier for materials, a barrier for liquids, and a barrier for gases. All right? Well, that capability doesn't stop as soon as they get to the landfill. When plastic bags go into the landfill, they still create that barrier, and they keep gases from moving up and liquids from moving down. And the fine folks that operate landfills, that's exactly what they're looking for. They're trying to get as much material into a landfill as they possibly can. They're trying to get the leachates to go down to the bottom, and they're trying to get the methane and the oxygen to go to the top. So this plastic bags really work against the whole idea of a landfill. And part of that problem is because there's so many plastic bags in that landfill. In fact, the average quick serve restaurant, fast casual restaurant, and coffee house, if you took all of the numbers of those in the United States, divided by all the trash bag used by them, you'd come up with about 9,000 trash bags per year from every fast food restaurant, quick serve restaurant, and coffee house in the US. That's a big number. So the technology that I'm talking about is called front of house compacting. And when I say front of house compacting, what I mean is a device that replaces the trash cans in the front of house of a dining room, coffee shop, quick serve restaurant, fast food, whatever. They replace trash cans at about 3 to 1. So if you have 6 trash cans in a dining room, you can take those out and put in 2 compactors. These will compact the trash down so that you have, instead of having 8 bags of loose, fluffy trash, you'll have 1 bag of compacted trash. When you take into account that a lot of times when you send your workers out to empty a trash can, the workers go out and dump it, whether it's a third full, half full, or quarter full. When you add that into the equation, the savings is actually 90%. So you can reduce trash bag use by 90%. That's kind of a big deal. These devices are, they're automated so that the guests don't have to touch anything. And as you can imagine, in an era of coronavirus, that's kind of a nice thing, not to have to touch any surfaces to throw your trash away. And they can be customized to match really any interior that's out there. Customers like this one choose to put a label on there that tells guests, these reduce your trash bag use by 80%, okay? Now, not everybody does that. I happen to think that's a mistake if they choose not to, but again, we just provide the equipment, the technology, and the support. We don't provide we don't tell them how to label them. So earlier, I mentioned 11 million trash bags and 225 tons of plastic. Well, that's a real number. That's from our largest US-based customer. In 2019, they had front of house trash compactors in 900 locations. And they saved over 11 million trash bags and over 225 tons of plastics from going into landfills. Now that's kind of a big deal. Now, they happen to choose not to talk about it. That's their prerogative. But I think that's a huge thing that they could be touting and doing for the environment. And the savings from this are nice. The savings of buying fewer trash bags. The savings of having fewer trash bags to move so your labor can do things other than just handle trash. It's nice because if for those of you that are in New York City, and you don't have dumpsters, and you have to lug all those trash bags to the basement, and then at night lug them all back up to the street, there is a huge labor savings involved with that. But for those of you that are in the suburbs and you do have dumpsters, you're going to reduce the volume of trash that goes into those dumpsters, which means you're going to be some savings associated with that. So those cost savings are nice, but the really big thing that these do is they reinforce to the guest every time they leave your restaurant that they're saving bags. And I talked about the millennials earlier and the Gen Zers. They're very keen and astutely aware of greenwashing. And that's when people go out and say they're doing great environmental things, but they're not really doing them. They want to see it. They want it proven to them. And this is a great way to be able to show them each and every time they leave the restaurant that, hey, we're saving plastic bags, which is doing a good thing for the environment. Well, I think just about everybody came to this show to see their vendors, learn about new technology, learn about new ideas. And we're here exhibiting at this show in booth 1947. But you can come talk to the salesman in our booth, or you can go visit one of the stores that has deployed this technology in the New York area. There's quite a few in Manhattan, but there's also some out in the burbs. And talk to them, take their word for it, see what they think of it. So that concludes my comments. Are there any questions I can take? Nobody? All right. Well, thanks for being here. Thanks for your attention, and have a great rest of the show.